The Financial Intelligence Centre sent the FATF an update on progress made in November. This report was analysed by a panel of reviewers from FATF member countries, but the final decision will be taken in Paris, France in February.
However, if the FATF in the February meeting is of the view that South Africa has not addressed the material aspects of the findings in their report yet, the FATF will then decide to greylist South Africa and will then formally set a task for South Africa to address the specific findings within a specific time frame and report according to that action plan and in that time frame on a regular basis to the FATF, while South Africa then remains greylisted. And we will then remain greylisted until such time as we have convinced the FATF that we have addressed those specific action items that the FATF will have presented to us in an.
South Africa could remain greylisted for anything between a year to 3 years. The country might, however, have another opportunity to convince the FATF of its commitment to deal with the high levels of corruption. In January, National Treasury officials will meet with the task force to answer any questions relating to the November report. Here it will discuss with the FATF panel if there is scope for South Africa to make further improvements. But if the body decides South Africa has not done enough to comply with the 40 recommendations it made to clamp down on financial crimes, what exactly will being greylisted mean for this country?
The effect of greylisting on a country like South Africa is, generally speaking, to reduce its GDP by 1%. Now, our GDP is only going to grow by less than 2% in the year ahead. So if we do get greylisted in February, then our GDP will drop, there will be fewer jobs, there will be less money, and the lot of the poor and the unemployed will be made worse. And inequality in South Africa will be exacerbated simply because we have not reacted adequately to the warnings from the FATF.
Hoffman says the various manifestations of corruption placed South Africa in this position. He adds government's inability to get on top of the money laundering going through the system effectively enough doesn't help. Treasury, however, says the passing of General Laws, Anti-Money Laundering and Combating Terrorism Financing Amendment Bill and the Protection of Constitutional Democracy Against Terrorist and Related Activities Amendment Bill through both houses of Parliament demonstrates government's commitment to fighting corruption and terror financing. Parliament had its work cut out for it in processing these pieces of legislation timeously. Treasury says this represented a giant step towards South Africa complying with the 40 recommendations made by the FATF. Amendments to the Financial Intelligence Centre Act, approved by Parliament in October, also aim to address weaknesses in the country's ability to address deficiencies as identified by the FATF. Among the amendments includes the fixability to obtain information about the financial activities of customers from a wider range of financial, non-financial institutions and crypto asset service providers. These changes also aim to improve the quality of financial intelligence reports the FIC provides to law enforcement, supervisory bodies and policy formulating entities. This will align South Africa's financial framework more closely with the standards set by the FATF. South Africa is the only African member of the FATF, which it joined in 2003. It is made up of 35 member states, but 190 countries around the world subscribe to its standard, which focuses on threats to the international financial sector. The International Monetary Fund and the World Bank also uses its recommendations and reviews in its own assessments of a country's financial stability. Abra Barbia, SABC News, Parliament.